Okay, welcome back to the first session of Unit 2. Still talking about collective bargaining and negotiation skills. So, in this session, we are basically going to look at a brief synopsis of the International Labour Organization. In other words, the ILO. Somebody will say ILO. So, a brief synopsis or philosophy that actually governs the International Labour Organization. So at the end of this session, we should be able to know the mission of the International Labour Organization as far as collective bargaining is concerned. And again, understand the philosophy of the International Labour Organization. And lastly, we should be able to explain the role of the International Labour Organization. So with the philosophy, the ILO or the ILO has always attached particular importance to certain basic human rights, which constitutes an essential element in all action designed to improve the conditions of workers. So this is basically the philosophy or the main idea or the main vision or the mission of ILO or the ILO. So they have prioritized certain basic human rights that constitute an essential element in all action designed to improve the conditions of workers. So they are much particular, they are much peculiar to the conditions of workers. And therefore, there are certain basic rights that they want to always make sure that they are part of what co-workers are supposed to get in order for them to have a comfortable working environment. And as a result of that, we are saying that these are dealt with in the conventions and recommendations on freedom of association, freedom from forced labor or forced labor. So here, what it means is that there is no way you can actually force a particular person or an employee to be part of a particular organization or a particular labor union. So they have certain conventions that we recommend or provide or cater for the concept of freedom of association. Freedom of association. And again, what you call it, the freedom, we have the freedom of forced or freedom from forced labor. So here, there is no way you can force a worker to be part of a particular labor. And freedom from discrimination. So the concept or the mission of what the ILO seeks to is to ensure that the workers have freedom of association, freedom from forced labor, and again, freedom from discrimination. There are times where we see a lot of discrimination that actually goes on in several organizations. Regardless of all these things, we should also bear in mind that some of these things are actually happening. Even though on paper they look nice, on paper it is there, but the practicality of it. So that is why we are also saying that in there are certain contexts or there are certain jurisdictions where what is preached out there is not what they are actually practicing. So what they are preaching is not what they are practicing. So the International Labour Organization has actually stipulated certain basic elements or rights of what workers, but sometimes certain employers or certain organizations overlook those things and still do what is not expected of them. So discrimination. Again, we are still on the philosophy. We are saying that we have what we considered prior, basically talks about the mission of the ILO. So here we want to dive depth into the philosophy of the ILO. So we are saying that the philosophy on unions and collective bargaining as stated in Article 2 of the Convention 87 as follows. So if you look at the Article 2 of Convention 87, we have all these philosophies over there. So one of them is saying that all workers without distinction whatsoever shall have a right to establish and to join organization of their choice. So they have the right to join whichever organization they think they want to be part of. And again, all workers have the right to select representatives of their own choice. So there are no way, or there are no instances whereby you say you would actually choose certain representative for them because of your own interest. So the philosophy of ILO actually ensure that these things are dealt with. Okay. And again, legitimately selected worker representatives have the right, legitimately to mean people who have been appointed through legal means. So that's why we have the word legitimate here. They have the right to be recognized by employers and other relevant authorities. So if the employees or the employers or the employees association actually select certain group of people or certain individuals to lead them to be their representatives, it means that actually the employers are supposed to be able to recognize them as such and give them the necessary attention that they need. So we have different or several philosophies that actually embarks the ILO. Now we want to look at the role of the ILO. What do they seek to achieve? Or in other words, what is their function? What do they perform? The role of the ILO. So one, the ILO supports government to fulfill. So that is a word, fulfill. So that it supports the government to fulfill their international obligation to respect. So they ensure that their rights and their obligation in terms of the international arena or what the international expects them to do has been fulfilled. Then another one, this one should have been numbered, so there are points that we need to take note. Another one has to do with to promote and to realize the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining. Yes, to promote and to realize the effective recognition of the right of a collective bargaining, sorry, and to help take measures to encourage the full development of machinery for voluntary negotiation. So this includes a supervisory system that helps. So all of these rules that we have talked about, basically we need the supervisory system that will actually ensure that what they have put on paper is actually practiced, or whatever they seek to do, people are actually doing it. They are not violating the right of what workers. Now we want to discuss the two major components of the supervisory system. So one, we have the regulatory supervisory mechanism. So once a country has ratified a convention, it is required to report regularly on measures taken towards its application. So every 2 years for a fundamental convention, that is what they seek to. So they are actually the people who are to ensure that all these measures that they said they want to actually put in place are actually in implementation. Then another component has to do with special procedure for freedom of association. So they also embark on special procedure that actually would enhance people to be able to have freedom of association. And here you are saying that following the adoption of Convention number 87 and Convention number 98, the ILO had concern about the protection of the right to organize in countries that had not ratified these conventions. So basically, we have looked at the International Labour Organization, the philosophy, and some components of the regulatory system or the supervisory system. When we say we basically have two components of the supervisory system that we have talked about. So this is also, we should be able to familiarize ourselves with some of these questions and all that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.